Do you know what hurts more than words? Silence. Especially the kind of silence that comes from someone who no longer begs, who no longer pleads, who no longer feels the need to explain themselves. It's not the absence of sound that wounds. It's the absence of effort, the absence of presence, the absence of acknowledgement. That silence, heavy and deliberate, is born not from indifference, but from exhaustion. It carries the weight of 1,000 unspoken things, of words that were once screamed into voids, of emotions that were once spilled only to be dismissed, of patience that was stretched until it snapped. It's at that exact moment, when you decide to keep quiet, walk away, and stop justifying yourself, that you leave a deep mark on someone who never knew how to value you. Because silence hurts in a different way. It doesn't scream, it doesn't blame, it doesn't beg, but it still says it all. And believe me, those who thought you were weak or replaceable start to hear it when it's too late. Your silence is the sum of everything you swallowed, everything you endured, everything you forgave for a love that was never reciprocated. It is the voice of your dignity, tired of explaining itself. And yes, that absence feels like a real emptiness, because silence leaves people alone with their conscience. No excuses, no screams to cover up the blame, no drama to hide behind. Only the weight of their own mistake. Do you know why silence is so powerful? Because it shows your decision to stop fighting, to stop begging for crumbs, to stop defending the indefensible. It's your way of saying, I'm no longer available to be anyone's bedside, the occasional refuge, the backup plan. And that hurts. Because suddenly, they face the truth. They lost you, not because you stopped loving, but because they never knew how to give you what you deserved. As Carl Jung said, those who don't face their shadow project their emotional garbage onto others, and without realizing it, you became the container for what they couldn't handle, their guilt, their lack, their frustration, until one day you simply wake up and choose silence. And no, it's not weakness, nor indifference, it's the purest form of your healing. Because those who have healed no longer argue, plead, cry, or beg. They just leave, and that's when your silence begins to resonate in their soul. They wonder, why don't you respond anymore? Why are you no longer here? And that emptiness weighs more than any argument. Because silence cannot be twisted, cannot be manipulated, cannot be denied. Silence becomes a brutal mirror that forces others to confront their own flaws. The person who failed to value you will remember every word you said, but above all, they will remember the moment you stopped saying them. Because when someone gets used to you always being there, to you responding, to you sustaining their chaos, it hurts them deeply to discover you are no longer available. There is no harsher punishment for an immature ego than having no one to blame, no one to vent their frustration on. Your silence breaks their comfort zone. And here's the important thing. Your silence is your strongest cry for dignity. Not everything needs to be explained. Not everything is healed with words. Some wounds only heal when you walk away. Some people only begin to value your presence when they face your absence. And no, it's not revenge. It's a consequence. That of not being heard, not being seen, not being respected when you gave your all. As Hong said, what is not consciously realized is experienced as destiny. And sooner or later, that person will face the destiny created by their own lack. I know that silence hurts. That many times you wanted to scream everything you felt, all the anger you held in, all the times you were broken. But when you choose silence from a place of self-love, not fear, something powerful happens. You regain your peace, your center, your strength. Silence, when well chosen, is medicine. It's the exact distance needed to heal without allowing unclean hands to touch your wound again. And while you heal in silence, they face their own hell, because there are no more screams, no excuses, no mind games. Only their conscience remains, and no one escapes it. So, if you ever doubt whether you did the right thing by remaining silent, remember, it's not your job to teach those who don't want to learn, nor to heal those who refuse to see their pain, nor to save those who don't want to be saved. Your only duty is to yourself, to protect yourself, prioritize yourself, and take care of yourself. And sometimes, that's only achieved by silently walking away, letting the other person face the consequences of their selfishness. They may try to provoke you, send you excuses, accuse you of being cold. Don't fall for it. Your silence says you're done accepting less than you deserve. Because if you give in, they'll play with your mind again, repeat their patterns, and diminish your dignity once again. Remember, someone who truly loves you will never push you into silence. Someone who truly cares for you won't push your patience to the limit until it breaks. And someone who truly values you will never make you feel like walking away is the only option. So if today you're withdrawing, keeping silent, distancing yourself, don't feel guilty. You're doing the right thing. You're giving that person the only real chance to understand what it means to lose you. Not everyone knows how to lose. Some grew up believing you'd always be there. That's why your silence hurts so much, because for the first time, they understand that you weren't unconditional, that you weren't going to tolerate everything forever. They see that you know how to leave, close the door, choose you. And believe me, that kind of silence leaves a much deeper mark than any words spoken in anger. Someone once said that the unconscious only awakens after a hard blow, one that breaks autopilot and forces us to look inward. Your silence is that blow. It's the jolt that confronts the other with their shadow. And although it hurts to see it, perhaps it's the best thing that could have happened. No one truly changes as long as someone continues to hold on to their hopes. So today, I want to invite you to feel proud of your silence. It's not coldness, it's not weakness, it's strength. It's the courage to let go of what no longer does you any good. It's wisdom, knowing that not everything deserves your voice, your energy, or your presence. There are people who only learn when they lose the privilege of having you around. And this is just the beginning. In the next part, we'll go deeper. How to sustain your silence without guilt, how not to give in to provocation, and how to turn it into your most powerful tool of self-love. This isn't punishment, it's healing. It's closing cycles with dignity. It's choosing yourself, even if it leaves a void, in those who didn't know how to take care of you. Don't miss what's coming next. We're going to touch places in you that you didn't even know were there. This is just the beginning. And before we continue, tell me, where are you watching us from? I'd love to see how far this beautiful community of self-love and dignity can go. So now, let's go deeper. Silence holds a power we often overlook. It's not just the absence of words. It's a boundary. It's a space. It's an act of self-preservation. When you choose silence with someone who failed to appreciate you, you're delivering the clearest, most powerful message you possibly can. I'm no longer available for the same old patterns. That silence becomes a wall that shields your mental peace. It says, enough without aggression, It marks an ending without drama. People aren't used to losing your voice. They're so sure you'll always reply, always explain, always justify. So when you decide not to say a word, it disrupts their entire power game. They feel unarmed, exposed, even desperate because silence offers no material for argument, no fuel to keep their lies spinning, no hooks to manipulate your empathy. Silence can't be twisted. There's no argument against emptiness. The one who failed to value you begins to feel the intensity of your absence in a way they never expected. They start to remember everything you gave, everything you held up, everything you offered, and it hurts, even if they'll never admit it. Ego will always pretend it doesn't care, but the conscience, it screams, especially when nothing is left to distract it. That's why your silence cuts so deep. It forces them to finally hear themselves. At first, it might feel strange for you too. You've been so used to talking, explaining, trying to fix things, that keeping quiet feels like going against your nature. But I want you to remember this. Not everyone deserves an explanation. Not everyone is worthy of your voice. You've given so much, repeated yourself so many times, and if they still don't value you after all of that, there's nothing left to say. The one who didn't hear you when you were screaming won't hear you now. Your silence, when held with intention, is more powerful than any speech. It's proof that you no longer need to convince anyone of your worth. That's self-love in its purest form. Carl Jung once said, "When you stop projecting, you start healing, and silence interrupts the projection. It brings you back to yourself. It shows you where your energy was going, and it invites you to pull it back in. That's where your true freedom begins. You'll notice that the moment you go quiet, the other person will do everything possible to provoke you. They'll reach out, send messages, try to press your buttons, try to make you feel guilty because they can't stand the emptiness. Your silence is screaming inside them now. They've lost control. That's the exact moment where you must stand your ground. Don't respond from pain. Don't respond from longing. Every word you give them now opens a door for them to hurt you again. I promise you, if you can resist that first impulse to break the silence, you'll feel a kind of peace you may not have known in years. The peace of someone who no longer self-betrays, who no longer begs, who no longer submits. Silence becomes your refuge, your sacred space, where no one else can touch you. And that's not pride, nor revenge, it's self-care. It's healing from a distance. I know it might hurt to think they'll forget you, that silence could mean losing them forever, but I want you to face the truth. Someone who truly loved you would never have forced you into silence. Someone who genuinely respected you wouldn't have pushed you to your limit. So if they walk away for good, it's because they never had the ability to truly value your essence. And that's not a loss, it's a relief. Because you weren't born to be anyone's solution. You were born to share your life with someone who sees your worth with no conditions. As you remain silent, you'll start discovering parts of yourself you hadn't noticed before. You'll realize how many times you gave in out of fear, how many times you spoke just to keep the peace, how many times you tried to hold together what was already falling apart. That kind of realization is pure gold. It gives you your power back. It reminds you that you don't have to sacrifice your inner voice to maintain a relationship that never brought you peace. And as strange as it may sound, your silence will bring deep changes to the person who never knew how to value you. At first, there will be anger. There will be excuses. There will be denial. But with time, when they no longer have a reason to blame you, they'll start confronting their own mistakes. Maybe they won't change. Maybe they won't apologize. But the seed of awareness will have already been planted. And that is enough to close the chapter with dignity. Jung said, "Awareness hurts, and your silence is the shortest path for someone to meet their awareness, without distractions, without your explanations, without justifications, only the plain truth of their own emptiness." That process, even if it doesn't look like it, is healing. Because no one changes from comfort, they only change when the pain becomes unbearable. I want you to find the strength to hold on to your silence, even if it hurts, even if they blame you, even if they say you're being cold. Deep down, you know you're not being cruel. You're healing. You're setting boundaries. Without saying a word, you're showing that those who don't take care of you lose you. And that is a lesson that will live in their memory forever. Meanwhile, I want you to make yourself a promise. Don't use your silence as a weapon. Use it as a medicine, not to punish, but to protect yourself, to close old wounds, to rebuild your self-love, to hear yourself again without interference. Because only in that way will you be able to connect again from a place that's healthy, clean, free of resentment or emotional chains. In the next part, we'll go deeper into something essential. How do you rebuild your self-esteem while remaining silent? How do you avoid falling into the trap of returning to a place where you already know there's no love left? And how do you turn this silence into a true new beginning, not just a pause? Because you deserve to move forward with your head held high, knowing you didn't stay where you weren't respected. Don't go yet, because what comes next will be even more liberating and profound. We're going to name emotions you may have never dared to face. This is just beginning, and together we're going to come out stronger. But before we continue, I want to recommend something that might deeply transform the way you're living through this process. Being silent doesn't mean you're empty. Quite the opposite. Your silence is full of meaning, full of everything left unsaid, full of everything you refuse to repeat. And when you learn to stay peaceful within that silence, you become invulnerable. Because nothing hits harder than seeing that the person who once begged is no longer pleading, no longer asking, no longer chasing. That serenity dismantles any form of manipulation. It breaks it into 1,000 pieces. Because while you're in peace, the other person twists in their own chaos. Sooner or later, someone who didn't value you will feel the full impact of that calm, steady, unwavering silence. A silence that no longer waits, that doesn't pursue, that doesn't search. It's the silence of someone who chose themselves. And that is the biggest blow to the ego of someone who got used to your constant availability. You'll notice that many will try to provoke you, just to break your calm. They'll try to pull you off balance, hoping you'll snap, scream, react, because that gives them the comfort of knowing they still have power over you, that they still own your emotions. But when your silence is born from serenity, from the certainty that there's nothing more to give, there's no scream loud enough to shake you. And that's admirable. That's real strength. Please remember this. Serenity is not surrender. It's not giving up. It is the highest expression of acceptance. It means knowing you did all you could, that you loved as deeply as you knew how, that you gave your best, and that it is no longer your responsibility to save someone who refused to save themselves alongside you. It's hard, I know. It's hard to look at the emptiness left behind when you step away. It's hard to fall asleep in the quiet when you used to lie awake trying to fix everything. But in that space, in that silence, in that stillness, the chance to rebuild yourself is born. A chance to reconnect, to return to who you truly are. Because when there are no more screams, no more excuses, no more hollow words, the deepest truth finally appears. You deserve peace. And let me tell you this, when you nurture that peace inside you, nothing and no one can ever steal it again. The one who failed to value you will feel a terrible emptiness, and you'll feel immense relief. Not because you've become cold or indifferent, but because you finally stopped sacrificing yourself. You finally understood that someone who doesn't appreciate your presence doesn't deserve your words. As you maintain this silence, I want you to focus on strengthening your self-worth. Think about everything you bring, everything you gave, every small act of love that went unreciprocated, not to feel like a victim, but to remind yourself that your love was real, your intentions were pure, and your effort was honest. That holds immense value. And if someone didn't know how to receive that, they simply weren't on your level. Stay silent, yes, but also rebuild. Take care of yourself. Heal the wounds that hurt so deeply. Look after your body, your mind, your spirit. Find things that reconnect you with yourself. Learn to be alone without feeling lonely. Read, meditate, walk, breathe. Make your silence a sacred place, not a dark hole. That's why I keep recommending the art of serenity. It's such a powerful tool for filling silence with light, with calm, with purpose. I'll leave the link below for you to check it out. Don't let the moment pass. You'll start noticing how your energy shifts bit by bit. You'll begin to release your need for others' approval. You'll start to value your own silence as the best protection for your peace. And when you reach that place, when you stand firm in serenity, no one can shake you. No one can toy with your emotions again. Because there are no longer open doors for manipulation. It's very likely that memories, ghosts, or nostalgia will show up in your silence. That's normal. Whenever we distance ourselves from someone who once meant a lot, the brain sabotages us with memories of good times. But don't forget why you got here. Don't forget the tears, the neglect, the disrespect. Don't romanticize someone who hurt you. Your silence is the border between your broken past and your peaceful future. Don't cross back. There will be days when you feel like sending a message, explaining once more, asking for closure. And I want you to remember, that person won't give you real closure. The real closure is yours when you decide not to return, when you put yourself first, when you choose peace over chaos. That's where the story truly ends. That's when real healing begins. Carl Jung once said, "What we do not resolve within ourselves, we repeat outside of ourselves." If you don't heal your fear of being alone, you'll run back to someone who didn't value you. That's why your silence must come with commitment, to work on yourself, to face your wounds, to forgive yourself for enduring so much, and to understand that you deserve better. That's how you break the cycle. Today, I want to invite you to use this silence as the gateway into a new chapter. A chapter where you no longer settle for half-hearted love, where you don't tolerate disrespect, where you no longer beg for attention. A chapter where you own your peace, guard your serenity, and protect your heart. The one who failed to value you will feel your absence, will hear the echo of your quiet voice. They'll wonder 1,000 times what they did wrong. And that's the best lesson. Not to hurt them, but maybe, just maybe, so they wake up one day. And if they don't, that's not your burden. You've already played your part. You gave your best. You tried everything. Now it's time to think of you. Hold your silence. Talk to yourself. Listen to your thoughts. Embrace your emotions. And when nostalgia makes your soul tremble, remind yourself of this. Anyone who truly values you would never silence your voice. Anyone who truly loves you would never make you feel so small that silence becomes your only shield. What follows this process is beautiful, even if you can't see it yet. What's coming is your rebuilding, your healing, your transformation into a new version of yourself, stronger, freer, more aware, a version that will never again give away its voice to someone who doesn't deserve it. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into how to use this quiet phase to grow, to be reborn, to rise more powerful than ever. Don't miss what's coming next, because it will be your guide to turning pain into unstoppable strength. Thank you for being here, and remember, the art of serenity can walk beside you. Don't stop investing in yourself. Let's keep going. There's a moment when silence becomes your only shelter, a place where there's no more noise, no more yelling, no more excuses. It's just you and your own conscience. And that can be terrifying, because silence forces you to look at yourself without masks, to face your wounds, to see the shadows you've tried to hide. But that moment is sacred, because that's when the real rebuilding begins, when you no longer feel the need to explain to anyone why you left, when you're done convincing people you deserve to be loved, when you no longer beg to be understood. You reclaim a profound power, the power of being with yourself, the power of being enough for you without needing anyone's approval. That is the real treasure that rises from silence, when you learn to hold it gently. Those who fail to value you will feel that silence like a chasm. They'll face themselves in the mirror and confront everything you used to soothe with your presence. Because your company was their relief, your voice, their comfort, your patience, their remedy. And when all of that disappears, they're left with the full weight of their own emptiness. And even if they never admit it, that's unbearable for many. There's nothing more uncomfortable for someone who refuses to take responsibility than having to live with the consequences of their actions without distractions. Your silence forces them to face the loneliness they created, to realize they lost someone who truly loved them. And no matter how they try to cover it up, no matter how they accuse you of being heartless, no matter how they twist the blame, deep down, they know they won't get you back this time. That's when your silence becomes a lesson. Not a punishment, but a result. A result of not listening, not caring, not cherishing. And those consequences hit the hardest, because they don't come from anger or revenge. They come from self-respect, from dignity, from your right to peace. And no one can argue with that, because it doesn't shout, it doesn't plead, it simply stands there, solid, unwavering, like a wall you no longer wish to break. Over time, that silence begins to change colors inside you. At first it's gray, heavy with pain, full of memories and nostalgia. But as days go by, it becomes brighter, cleaner, healing. You start to feel relief. You regain your energy, and you begin to hear your inner voice again, the one that was buried under endless arguments, justifications, and desperate efforts to save what could not be saved. That's the gift of your silence. It gives you back your ability to hear yourself, to feel yourself, to choose yourself. Because in the absence of unnecessary words, the true connection with your being begins to bloom. And there, slowly but firmly, you begin to rebuild. You start remembering who you were before giving so much. You start recognizing your worth without needing anyone else to confirm it. Meanwhile, the other person is left with the echo of your absence. They'll remember your gestures, your little details, your words, all the things they once ignored, dismissed, or took for granted. And each of those memories will pierce like a blade, because they'll know you won't be repeating them. That certainty will be devastating for someone who believed you'd always be available. But this is not about celebrating their pain. It's not about wishing them suffering. It's about accepting that sometimes only through loss can someone truly understand who you were and all that you gave. Because while you were there, their mind couldn't see. Only in your absence does their heart awaken. And as harsh as it may sound, sometimes that's how life works. Silence, when it rises from self-love, teaches far more than any angry word, because you can't manipulate it, you can't argue with it, and you can't ignore it. It stays there, still quiet, present, day after day, like a reminder that this time there's no turning back. And even if they try to reach you, even if they want to reconnect, even if they attempt to reopen conversations, you are no longer the same, because silence has changed you. You are no longer the one who begged for answers, who forgave too quickly, who endured indifference. Now you are someone who honors themselves, who protects their peace, who stands firm in self-respect. That kind of change is irreversible. You might still feel some nostalgia, and for some, remembering might still hurt. But you wouldn't go back. You wouldn't return to the place where you had to betray your dignity, because now you've learned the most valuable lesson of all. Your peace is not up for negotiation. Carl Jung once said that a human being only truly meets themselves when they're able to be alone, in silence, without masks, without distorted mirrors, without the noise of other voices. That's when the truth finally surfaces. That's where you discover what you actually need, what you truly deserve, and most importantly, what you'll never again be willing to tolerate. When you learn how to hold that space, everything in your life begins to shift. You start to attract different people, healthier situations, more honest and meaningful relationships, because your energy begins to vibrate higher. And suddenly, you no longer fit into the same pain you once called home. And that right there is magic. Even if it feels terrifying at first, your silence becomes a filter. It pushes away those who aren't ready to grow and invites in those who are capable of loving you with respect, with consciousness, with true reciprocity. That's why you shouldn't fear it. You should welcome it, inhabit it, turn it into your companion, because only through silence does real transformation begin to bloom. Some people will say your silence is cold, that it's pride, that it's cowardice. Don't listen to those voices. They speak from their own wounds, not from truth. Silence born from your dignity doesn't destroy, it heals. It doesn't hurt, it protects. It doesn't punish, it teaches. And whoever truly loves you will eventually understand that if you chose silence, it's only because you had already screamed too much, begged too often, and given everything without ever being truly seen. That's the soul's clearest language. When your silence is rooted in love and not in hate, you'll realize it doesn't feel so heavy. It doesn't drag you down, doesn't hurt anymore. On the contrary, it becomes lighter, almost freeing, because you're no longer carrying words on your lips that were never heard. You're no longer wasting energy trying to convince. You're no longer tearing yourself apart in the name of love. You've become someone who knows when to walk away, someone who understands that love should never hurt, that companionship shouldn't exhaust you, and that attention should never have to be begged for. And right there, in that very understanding, your real healing begins. In the next part, we'll take the final step, how to turn that silence into your new way of life, forever. How to use it as a door to the most authentic form of self-love, and how to rebuild a future without falling back into the same old patterns. This journey doesn't end here. I can promise you that what's coming will be the greatest revelation of all. When everything goes quiet and the echo of your words disappears, the real test begins. That's when your silence becomes not just a temporary strategy, but a new way of being, because you've learned that you can't keep offering your voice to those who refuse to hear it. You can't keep sharing your energy with those who don't know how to hold it. And in that moment, you finally realize you've been reborn. That rebirth is painful because it demands farewells to people, to illusions, to shared dreams, even to the image you built of someone. Letting go hurts. Accepting hurts. Closing the door hurts. But the pain of endings is far more healing than the endless suffering of staying somewhere you were never valued. Slowly, that silence stops being an emergency shelter and becomes your natural home. You learn to live in it without anxiety, without needing validation, without waiting for answers that might never come. That's where true self-love blossoms, because you no longer rely on anything outside of you to feel whole. And as you walk this new path, you begin to notice the signs you once ignored. You begin to see who's truly willing to be in your life without hurting you. You start to recognize who truly values your essence, your presence, your light. You become more selective, more conscious, more intentional, because pain and tears have taught you that not everyone deserves your closeness. And that's a lesson you'll never forget. Those who failed to value you will feel your absence. Maybe they'll reach out. Maybe they'll try to explain everything away. Maybe they'll try to rewrite the past just to avoid guilt. And that's exactly when you must stay firm, because if you reopen that door without any real change, you'll only fall into the same cycle again. And this time, there's no excuse for lying to yourself. You already know how that story ends. Silence, in the end, isn't just what remains after unrequited love. It becomes the beginning of something much deeper, the love you owe yourself. Because respect isn't demanded, it's chosen. And when it chooses to respect you, when it protects your energy, the universe notices. New paths open, new people arrive, and healthier experiences emerge because you now vibrate from dignity, not from lack. Carl Jung said that everything we don't bring to consciousness returns as destiny. That's why silence has so much power. It breaks the cycle. It forces you to face what you buried, your fears, your wounds, your attachments, and once you see them clearly, you can no longer ignore them. That truth, even if it hurts, is what sets you free. And yes, in that freedom, there is loneliness, but not a kind that hurts, but a kind that heals. Because you are finally not surrounded by the wrong people. You are finally not sharing your life with someone who doesn't know how to sustain it. You are no longer begging for love. In that silence, you rebuild yourself, you rediscover yourself, and you emerge stronger. One day, you will look back and be grateful for that silence. You will be grateful for every tear, every sleepless night, every thought that led you to choose calm over chaos. Because without that break, you would still be tied to something that only drained you. You would still be waiting for something that would never come. The ghosts will return. The memories will knock on your door. And sometimes the longing will make itself felt. But now you have armor, your dignity. Every time you feel the urge to go back, to explain yourself, to give in, you will remember the hurt, the tiredness, the emptiness, and that will be enough to sustain you. They say silence destroys. I believe silence heals. It tears down the false, the forced, the manipulated, and leaves only what is real. And yes, the truth can hurt, but it's better to feel its sting than to live a happiness built on lies. Your silence today screams loudly, I choose me. It says, I won't negotiate my dignity again. It says, I've learned. And even if not everyone understands, even if they judge you or call you cold, it doesn't matter, because only you know what it took to get here. Never forget, those who truly love you will never ask you to be quiet so as not to upset them. Those who truly value you will never push you to set painful boundaries. If you ended up silent, it was because there was no other way, and that is the truth the other person will have to face, even in grief. From now on, let silence be a healthy way of living, not to shut yourself off from the world, but to protect your inner world, not to punish, but to protect you, to make sure you never betray your voice again, to never give it away to someone who refuses to hear it. And if one day you speak again, let it be with someone who knows how to listen, who values your story, who sees beauty in your scars, who is worthy of your love. You were not born to beg for attention, but to share yourself completely with someone capable of holding you in the truth. This silence will remain in the heart of those who didn't know how to value you, like a mark, like an echo, that will remind you that someone loved you unconditionally and that you lost that love due to your own blindness. You, on the other hand, will move forward lighter, stronger, more aware, because now you know that self-love is also said with a goodbye. And when you love again, because you will, it will be from a different place, with less fear, more clarity, and the firm certainty that no one will ever silence you, shut you down, or make you feel like you're not enough again. Thus ends this journey, without shouting or reproaches, only with the peace that comes from choosing silence to care for your heart. Because silence sometimes isn't emptiness, but presence, that of your self-love, your dignity, your courage. This is the beginning of something new. Even if everything seems uncertain today, trust. Soon you will see that this silence was the bridge to your freedom. And that, believe me, is worth 1,000 words. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss any content. See you in the next video.